one of the things I really like about potentialism too is your religious or your spiritual stance really don't matter. I mean, they matter in a sense that you're going to interpret potentialism differently, but it's all inclusive. If you're purely scientific, then potential is just the way, it's just a force of the universe.
Right.
It's how it works. That's it.
Right.
If you're spiritual, you can look at the superorganism model and see that you're part of the larger entity.
Right.
Whereas if you're religious, we know potential's there. The question is just, if you want to call it God, is it self-aware? And that's something that you're going to take or you're not. Faith.
Right. My children were brought up modern Orthodox. They are modern Orthodox Jewish, and they were brought up with this discussion at the table, and the two themes presented simultaneously: the modern Orthodox upbringing and quest potential theory. And again, book one is written in that vein. And initially, it appears as a problem for religion if one says that potential drives the cosmic order. But it turns out to be the solution, because it solves the two key problems of cosmogony and theodicy, or the origins of the divine, and why is it evil. In fact, my biggest supporters, to my surprise, come from the right, the religious right, whether it's Jewish or non-Jewish, almost by shock, right? And the problem children are the hardcore atheists who can't handle direction to the universe. It undermines their theory totally, if there's direction to the universe. It turns out their theory was undermined. The theory took two body blows. Peaking in 2000, Martin Rees, a renowned British astronomer, now head of the Royal, who then became head of the Royal Society, put out a book, Just Six Numbers, which said that there are six constants which have to be perfect to several, to 20, 30 decimal points out for the universe to thrive. It later turned out not just six, there have to be over 60 constants. And by 10 years from now, maybe over 500 constants. More and more constants are found necessary to be perfectly precise for our universe to be correct. So that theory, called fine-tuned universe, it reached a crescendo in 1999, 2000, when his book came out. Even though the basic concept of fine-tuned universe had been played out over the 20th century by other currently less known scientists. But in 1988, 12 years prior to Rees's book, my work came out. Summa 1 was called God and Evil, this book. And it gave an architecture to that whole concept, that quest potential drives the universe. And within that structure are Rees's six constants. That potential tweaked the constants, just like potential is tweaking our DNA. Prima facie, on the surface, Darwin felt that the most fittest of the species survived. But I'm saying we're both looking at the same evidence. And I was at Galapagos also. Just for the hell of it, I went there. I come on a ship. I came on a plane. I looked at the same evidence, and I see it differently. No. It's not that the most fittest, turtle survived. Wrong. Q4P looked at Galapagos and said, given this environment, what's the best modality turtle? And it tweaked the DNA to fit the Galapagos. So the Galapagos turtles are giant compared to the turtles in New Jersey, say. Because in different environments, Q4P is tweaking the DNA differently. And looking at the same evidence, but spinning it differently. So it's not that the dinosaurs were more survival adaptable than the slug. No. Q4P looked at the environment on Earth at that point in time and said, my best shot at extraordinariation is the dinosaur. The slug bores me. It doesn't get me to my objective. I want Star Wars. And my Star Wars entity, de jure, given the possibilities out there, is Mr. Dinosaur. And I'm going to tweak things for millions of years, millions of iterations, to get me to these dinosaurs. Dinosaurs wiped out? No good. We have to start all over. We have to have a different direction. But now Q4P knows more. It's collecting more data points. Q4P is learning like a monster. It's keep learning. The monster learns to survive and prevail and grow. It's constantly, and we're part of it. And we're feeding information. And it's feeding us information. And we're all part of it. Hope you can handle all this. Don't throw me out of the club or the shul. Don't throw me out. Okay, I'm a good guy, I promise. But it's constantly learning, iterating, morphing. And we along with it. If you look at even films from the 1950s, when video first came out, you'll see the people today seem more sophisticated. We're not that far away from it. Not just what they know, their whole entity seems more sophisticated, more aware. So Q4P learned and is learning, and given its knowledge set, it's able to set its sights on a different intermediate goal. We're an intermediate goal of Q4P. That's hypothesis. You take it from there.
Yeah, and one of the things I find interesting, particularly about Darwinian theory, is it's only part of the equation. Right. Nobody's saying it's wrong.
Right, it's correct.
It's just missing a lot.
And it's part of the equation, but it's also spinning it wrong.
Yeah.
It's not the most fit to survive. It's more Q4P will pick the entity which it wants to be more dominant, or the variation on the species which it wants to be more dominant to achieve its objective. Since Q4P wants to be more dominant, it will be more dominant. Right. It looks like it's the fittest. No, it was intended to be the dominant. Okay.
Yeah, and and it's been argued that the question is, well, why is love and compassion important from a Darwinian perspective? Right. And you can argue back that it helps you protect your family.
But those arguments all break down.
Tribe
they all break down. They all break down.
And what really breaks down is with altruism.
Right. I know you're big on altruism.
Yeah.
I'm not so big on that theory. on your spin on it. I'll explain. But you go at it. Go.
Yeah, it's like I could say, if I help my neighbor out,
right,
then that's not really true altruism. Altruism is doing something that will never have any kind of positive impact for you. Say when you visit another town and give a guy that's homeless a cup of coffee.
Right.
There's no excuse for that in a Darwinian model. You have less than you started with, and you get no benefit at all. Your family doesn't get a benefit. You just gave away some of their money, and you can't explain that from a Darwinian perspective.
Right.
And I feel part of the problem is on a broader scale. Is the terms astrophysicist and cosmologist tend to get used interchangeably, like it's the same thing. But astrophysics belongs to physics. Cosmology actually belongs to philosophy.
Right.
It's a different discipline altogether.
Right.
And the reason that's important is because scientists measure. That's what they do at the heart. They're very good at telling you how big something is, how dense it is, its dimensions, its color, but they miss all the qualitative properties. And those are just as real.
Okay, right. And I know that's one of your other big things. Right. They miss the qualitative. So I would say, forgive me. I would give it a slightly different take. And I was astrophysics buff as a youngster. And I tracked the field. Remember, we were the post Big Bang Theory generation in the 50s. Big Bang Theory just came out, and astronomical observation came astute, so it was like a hobby of mine. Anyway, I would say that metaphysics and cosmology wraps around physics. Meaning, physics gets nuts and bolts, the mechanisms, and we love them when we need them. And the cosmologists and the metaphysicists, they wrap around it. They want to know the cosmic architecture. Now, as you would be first to say, we have anointed the astrophysicists and the physicists as the gods of all knowledge. You give them a power they don't deserve, they're not qualified for. You're better off asking a poet about the universe than asking physicists about the meaning of the universe. But society at large has given them a lot of standing to guide us on deep eternal questions, and respectfully, it's a mistake. They're taught to only trust what they can measure. But certain things you cannot measure. You cannot measure love, fear. You cannot measure the cosmic dynamic, the overarching cosmic dynamic. And that's part of the problem. And the first thing people say, well, can you prove it? Well, you cannot. Things, framing beliefs you can never prove. You can approach them by empirical evidence and by inductive reasoning. Inductive proof. And maybe in a future tape, in this afternoon, we'll get a little bit into inductive proof of potentialism theory, with your permission, because you're the master, and I'm your student, on inductive proof of potentialism theory. Okay. And with that, I think we'll finish off this segment. And thank you so much. To be continued a little bit later today.